So the topic this week is digital evidence and electronic crime scenes. Now, one thing to remember here is the idea that um, electronic evidence is very easy to have contaminated. You know, when you think about like DNA, we're thinking about the fact that contamination could be getting two, things to commingle and, contaminating DNA that way. What I'm talking about is contamination, is the idea that, I seize a cell phone from a person, and back, in the olden days when we would take a cell phone out of a person's pocket, sometimes the officers would take and, click on it and start scrolling through information on the screen, and looking at text messages and stuff. You can't do that anymore. That's not search incident to arrest anymore. And by going into stuff like that, you might be violating certain crimes. Just the same too as starting to look through files, and you don't have a warrant that covers looking through files could be a problem. So we need to be very mindful about what it is we're doing as it relates to seizing electronic evidence, and especially remember the fact that taking an electronic device and searching through it are two completely different things. And so from an evidence collection intro to CSI standpoint, we're going to kind of limit ourselves to the idea that we're just going to put electronic devices into evidence bags and send it to the crime lab later. Now, keep this stuff in mind as it relates to digital equipment at crime scenes. You could have three different kinds of digital evidence. So sometimes we talk about contraband, where you have people who have files that are illegal. Things like child pornography, pirated movies, and pirated songs. Local PDs, we don't get too involved in the pirating stuff, but, we definitely, with some of the human trafficking that we see here in Wisconsin and prostitution, there is some of that going on at the underage level. And that does have ties back to child pornography issues. Instrumental. So you could have the device being part of the crime, like identity theft type situations where, hacking, where people are getting access to other people's information electronically via the computer system. And then what we sometimes refer to as mirror evidence, the idea that maybe there's some text messages back and forth between people that show the conspiracy to commit a crime, or maybe we're going to get somebody's, billing information from their computer and stuff and see that, they had purchased items that were then used to commit a crime physically in the real world later. So we sometimes talk about a lot of our digital evidence as being latent. Latent being a term for the fact that we know it's there, you just can't see it. There is information on this memory card. It's in there. We just can't see it until we plug it into the computer and start clicking away. So we have to be very sensitive to that. We also know that digital evidence can be altered or destroyed easily, and we need to be cognizant of the fact that we're not doing any altering of that evidence. We also need to be cognizant of the fact that, sometimes while I'm seizing a computer here, if it's somebody's Gmail account, their Gmail server is actually the closest server that Google has is in Iowa. And so, while we are taking a computer, a laptop that is here in Wisconsin, the actual data for the emails and stuff is stored off in the cloud in Iowa in someplace else where there's a data center. So I kind of mentioned this already, kind of gave you a little spoiler. Two steps here. We have, the step we do as CSIs where we collect the evidence, bag it, and tag it. And then we have the data acquisition done by the folks at the crime lab. The two units you see pictured here are devices referred to as FRED, Forensic Recovery of Electronic Data. Sorry, I had a little forgetfulness there for a second. But yeah, so the FRED units are the devices that we take and we plug in somebody's laptop, we plug in somebody's desktop to these, and we literally extract out, or the crime lab extracts out all the data from that computer and then searches through the data on the FRED unit. This one is being portable, a lot bigger than a laptop. And this is your desktop version. I always like to bring FRED up because these are manufactured by a company called Digital Intelligence, which is located in Milwaukee. So these are the devices that the Secret Service and the FBI use, and they're made right in our backyard here in Wisconsin. So the essential steps, what we have to be thinking about is realize that we have electronic evidence. Years ago it was kind of funny. We didn't think a lot about electronic evidence because, not a lot of people had cell phones. And back in the days of flip phones, texting, camera phones were pretty new. And so we were missing out on a lot of evidence. As a younger officer, at that time, I was kind of into electronics and stuff. And so, I was cognizant of the text messaging and camera photos and stuff. But it was funny, when you would collect these things and people would look at you like, why are you collecting this? It's his cell phone. It's going to have his fingerprints on it. What's the big deal? And then you start submitting it to the lab and getting information back, and people are going, where are you getting this information? Well, that's why I'm taking their cell phones. So it's that recognition. And, what's going to be the next technology? I don't know. The wearables, the information that you're getting off of people's glasses or their Fitbit watches, granted, most of that information is not stored on the wearable. It's linked over to the phone, but I don't know what's going to be the next technology. So we need to keep up on these things so we understand information like that. Because if you got a built-in GPS in a pair of glasses with a camera, that might be information that could show that, hey, our person was here because they were recording it and their GPS puts them here. Same with like some of our watches and stuff like that. You can show that somebody's saying they were asleep at this time and they were at home. Their watch is telling us something completely different. Their watch is telling us that their heart rate was elevated, that they were doing something, which would show that they were involved in a fight, that they were involved in whatever crime was going on. But I digress. So just making sure that we're recognizing the electronic devices in our scene and that they might have documentation of the crime scene, so that we need to really do a good job of photographing and diagramming the scene and collecting these devices and getting them to the crime lab in pristine order so that the crime lab can extract the data. And just think about all the different devices out there, from desktops and laptop computers. You don't see PDAs too much anymore, but personal digital assistants, they've been kind of smooshed into our cell phones. But you still every so often see folks who are reluctant to have a smartphone and they don't want the data plan, so they might have an electronic calendar and then, a flip phone. Seeing that less and less. Cell phones, smartphones, digital cameras, GPS systems, a lot of your accessories. So any of your, memory sticks, and let's face it, memory sticks come in all shapes and sizes, SD cards, USB sticks. All the different little things that you might have. Don't forget about CDs and DVDs that are burnable. If you watch that show, Mr. Robot, that's on USA Network, very interesting. That hacker guy. Not saying you need to go out and watch it, but there's this hacker. He takes and he burns information onto CDs, and then he labels them off as being, Pink Floyd and Aerosmith and different band names. And he's got a system where he remembers which band is associated with which stalking, hacking job he's done. And so you look at these CDs and you see the labels and you think, it's just music. I'd still want to have a look at them to make sure that they're not music, and that just right there illustrates, it's not like some a good real criminal is going to lay out, hacking victim 1, hacking victim 2 on his CDs. There's going to be some other labeling on them, I imagine. And you think about all the different people then, basically the kinds of crimes and criminals we're dealing with here. You're looking at the ones that we associate with computer crime, like identity theft and child pornography and child enticement and hackers and folks who do the stalking online through email and social media, all the different frauds out there. The IRS fraud's really big right now, where people are being emailed and telephoned even, being told that they owe back taxes and that they have to go to this website and pay X amount of money. All those things that we think of from a computer crime standpoint, great. What about the stuff we don't associate with computer crime? Like drug dealers, hey, I post stuff on social media all the time about what I'm doing in life. My Facebook feed is filled with pictures of workouts and kettlebells and whatnot, because that's what I'm into. So if you are into other things, you probably have a social media feed filled with what you're into, assuming that you use it. And so there are instances, we have had many instances of drug dealers having pictures of their product on their social media. And when they say that's not mine, well, here's your Facebook. It's yours. Here you are holding it. Here you are smoking it. Here you are talking about what you have in stock and able to be sold. Illegal gambling type things. Various loans that are illegal loans, extortion. And, when you look at extortion, you could even have the idea of, mixing in the hacking and the extortion. We have these files of yours, give us money, or they get deleted, or give us money and they become made public if it's something embarrassing, like, selfies with little to no clothing on. We are seeing digital suicide notes. People aren't writing out notes anymore. They're posting their goodbyes online or otherwise. Different aspects of homicide. Googling, what's a person's Google search history? Are they looking up how to create poisons, how to create things, how to hide things, how to get away with something, stuff like that. Burglars and thieves are using computers to find out, weak points in security systems, how to shut down security systems, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Arsonists, literally Googling how to burn down a house. I mean, we get somebody's computer after a house fire and we find that they were Googling this. We're seeing too, we don't see streetwalkers anymore as it relates to prostitution. Human trafficking has gone digital. And so a lot of our issues with the prostitution business are done online, and some of the times they're not websites you can just Google and find. We sometimes refer to something called the dark web, where these are websites that intentionally don't allow themselves to be accessed by Google. The only way you can find these sites is by somebody giving you the URL and you typing it in, or you clicking the link in an email. And that's a real problem for us in law enforcement. We can't find the site unless somebody tells us about it, and then we can't go and take care of what's going on there unless we have a reason to go and find it. So basically what we're saying here is at this point, any crime is going to have digital evidence today. I mean, just think about how wired in you are, and how wired in your friends are. And think about that. I mean, I always laugh. My mom is 83 years old and she is on Facebook nonstop, and you think, like, what the heck, but she's always keeping in touch with folks and grandkids and stuff like that. And it's a good way for her to, with her limited mobility, to still be part of, the social network, by being in an online social network. That would be part of her social circle with her friends and family. And, if an 80-some-year-old lady is able to do this, it means all of us are, and some of us are into it and some of us aren't. I'll be the first to admit that I like certain social media sites, and other ones I don't get. I could care less about. I'm not going to ever look at them. And I keep hearing about new ones every day, and it's like, I'll keep up with what I got. But, understanding that they're out there, knowing that they're out there, and using them are very different ideas, though, because I understand that they're out there. That allows me as an investigator to go out and seek them. But I digress. Anyhow, if we're going to a suspect's house, definitely snagging all of their stuff so that we can figure out what it is that they are doing and figure out where they have been and where they're going. The pictured here is a very famous hacker by the name of Kevin Mitnick, one of the very early people who was convicted of some of the early hacking stuff. And he was FBI's most wanted, top 10, very, very, wanted man, very dangerous man, but yet never violent, only from a keyboard. And now he's a very well sought after security expert. He has been released from prison. He has done his time. And now he is the person that people hire to make sure that they don't get hacked and to make sure that their corporate securities are very solid and whatnot. And the FBI even goes to him to look for help from time to time. So, you see those plot lines in movies and TV shows. He is the guy that incorporated, that actually basically kicked off that idea of hiring a hacker to prevent hacks. All right, that's the end of this first part. We will talk a little bit more about the actual collection of evidence in Lecture 2.